And welcome back. It's October, the weather is cooling, but the conference season is really heating up just in time for this month's edition of the Microsoft Teams show. There's been some big news last month, of course, lots of releases, some ending of the EU saga with Microsoft, but before I ramble on any longer, let's get into it. I'm Kristian McCann from UC Today, and I'm joined by Tom Arbuthnot from Powering Cloud, and of course, as usual, our stellar panel of Microsoft experts who know the space inside and out. So we also have a special guest, Mark Webb, UK Home Office lead voice and video engineer. He'll be talking to us about how he developed the Power Apps to automate Teams call management and reduce service request turnarounds from 5 days to just 6 minutes. But stay tuned for that. For now,
yeah, that's a really, really interesting conversation. So looking forward to that.
Well, so lots to look forward to, but we're going to go through even more interesting topics right now with the wrap up of the news. Tom, I know you're really busy at UC Expo last week. How's everything looking in your world?
Yeah, good. Yeah, so the Microsoft Corp team were over for their AI tour, so we had a lot of sessions at UC Expo, and there were private kind of partner sessions and MVP sessions and stuff. So yeah, it's been really good. There's a lot coming, and we're on the ramp up to Ignite. So normally we're waiting on that, but actually there's a ton to talk about this month, particularly in the AI space.
Indeed. Microsoft and AI, that's segueing me into the first question. So Microsoft goes multi-model with Copilot, now letting enterprises pick between OpenAI and Anthropic. Is this a further separation we're seeing from OpenAI, or is this just giving enterprises more choice?
Yeah, both can be true. I mean, Copilot has always been multi-model, so there've always been different models they've put in and out depending on the use case, and obviously they've used different models from OpenAI. The critical thing here is they're adding Anthropic as an option. It is an option, and admins have to opt in. But this is a model not running on Azure, so it's running on AWS because Anthropic have an agreement with Amazon. But it's been such a strong and well-respected set of models particularly in terms of coding and creative writing and automation. I'm guessing enough customers have demanded it, and Microsoft, it's interesting to see them deliver any model the customer wants kind of within the Copilot ecosystem. So initially this will be Copilot Studio and Researcher. But as we'll talk about later in the show, it's rolling out into more functionality. For customers, it's interesting because they have to accept Anthropic's data terms and conditions as well as Microsoft's to fully use that model. So there's some consideration there from a kind of enterprise point of view. But for me, great to see options for customers.
Yeah, definitely. Talking about more Copilot stuff. So free Microsoft Copilot in Office apps. Microsoft is moving to a new Microsoft 365 apps integration for free, and it allows Copilot chat to work in a way over documents, Outlook, PowerPoint, Excel. Tom, what do you think of this?
Yeah, this is an interesting blurring of the lines because originally the Copilot chat or Bing chat or the other 100 of names it's had, the free/included version, you can't really say free, but it's free as in included. The differentiation was that was web-based, or what Microsoft called grounded in the web, and it couldn't access your documents directly. You could upload them, but it couldn't access them. Now that running in Word, Outlook, PowerPoint, etc., will be able to engage with the active open document, which is a huge functionality step forward for free users, and a bit of an on-ramp for Microsoft to be like, isn't it great working with OneDoc? If you step up to M365 Copilot, now you can access all your documents and Researcher and all the fancy features. So good for free users, and interesting to see Microsoft kind of, again, working on where they draw the line between free in the box capability and then the add-on M365 Copilot license.
What about Teams getting unified Copilot chat, but only for M365 licensed users?
This is weird, isn't it? Because we've just said it goes in the Office apps for free, but Teams is the exception to the rule. So Teams only gets that new Copilot chat experience that can engage with the app data if you're M365 Copilot licensed. So that will only get web-based for free. It won't engage in the current chat or the current meeting, which I think is going to be confusing for users because in Word, I can engage with the current content, but in Teams, I can't engage with the current content without a license. So it's a big step forward if you've got the Copilot license, because it's now engaging in all the data in Teams. So your chat, your channels, your meetings, your calls. It's bringing it all together in one unified experience, but in Teams only if you're licensed.
Okay, great. Kevin, did you want to jump in on?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great that Microsoft is adding new capabilities. I continue to worry about Copilot confusion. If AI is supposed to make our lives easier, by making me choose which model, and there's different contexts still in the different applications. Like if you ask about the top emails that I received from Tom, if I ask in Excel or Teams or OneNote, I get different answers. And now it depends if I've got the little switch to the web or work grounded. And I think the typical user is trying to get their job done, and they're already confused about AI, and so I think the different licensing. I understand what Microsoft is doing, and they're trying to figure out what resonates. Um, but I do think at some point it's like we need a Copilot coordinator to help us figure out.
I mean, isn't that the ultimate AI test? There's all these like humanity's last exam, but maybe it's just explain licensing at Microsoft is the final AI boss.
Yeah, exactly. Explain Copilot, and then you win, right? So
Copilot for Copilot.
But I mean, doesn't it all make sense? Because now when you're in the web experience in M365 Copilot Home, the old office.com, if you don't have the fancy license, it's like a very clear button in the, I think it's in the right corner that says, "Hello, do you want to upgrade? Hello, do you want to buy?" I mean, it just feels like having more ways for users to get in with the free license. There'll be more places to have that little button. Hello, do you want to buy the real license?
Yeah, a lot of admins don't love the pitching direct to end users as well, which is a fun conversation. And I think we're going to see more and more of that, of Copilot saying, "Oh, here, this is good, but it could be better if you tick this box for a trial or ask your admin for a license."
But one of the key difference between the free version of the chat and the paid version would be the agent experience, the different agents that Microsoft is adding into the Copilot 365. Those experience would be a key differentiator for a customer to like upgrade from a free chat to the paid version of it.
yeah, and speaking of agents, I think everybody, there's a new channel agent or whatever they're calling it. But so I think everybody, the first thing I did was to create a channel called Secret, because now I have a secret agent. And I love that every week it's a secret agent it gave me. So I feel like I'm a spy. So it makes me feel cool. So there you go.
We've got a Copilot channel, so now we have an agent in Teams called Copilot Agent that isn't Copilot; it's a channel agent. That was fun.
Well, speaking of the channel agents, you both segued in nicely. Obviously, Teams and Office gets a new AI agent. I think it's called Facilitator, and it can join your Teams meetings, takes notes, manage agendas, and of course, they're living in channels. Is this going to be a little taste for some people to start experimenting with Teams a bit more in the agents, a bit more in Teams platform?
Yeah, I mean, this is Microsoft trying to find kind of more proactive multiplayer ways to use AI. So Copilot is very much pitched as your personal agent, and these, in this case, so Teams gets Facilitator as GA, which is the meeting agent, and that I think that's really high value in the sense of it takes meetings for the entire meeting, shares them with everybody involved, and it starts to do some kind of meeting coaching about, have you covered everything on your agenda? We're halfway through, 5 minutes to go. So that's cool. We've also got channel agents where it's per channel and it's grounded in that channel's data. And as Kevin said, it does a proactive once a week kind of push to the users saying, hey, here's what's gone on in the channel, here's what you've missed. Also announced is the Word and Excel agents, and Microsoft have tried to dub this kind of vibe working off the back of vibe coding. I'm not sure any employer wants their workers to be vibe working, but this is interesting again because this is proactive agents in Word and Excel, like doing the first pass for you, but again with the Anthropic models. So if you want to get this value, you have to be letting the Anthropic models in, and those models are really good, so really good functionality. But now businesses start to get this value, you have to accept the Anthropic kind of data terms to really be on the leading edge of this new vibe working, it's being called.
Okay, now moving on to BT. BT Wholesale is bringing Operator Connect to App Source. It's reported only 5.7% of Teams users actually have telephony enabled. Do you think this move could potentially see a lot more people using telephony via Teams?
I mean, there's a gap in who can sell Operator Connect and who has it. So there's 115 operators now on the Operator Connect program, and some of them do have options for partners. And obviously, this is BT bringing in a partner option. So it's nice for channel partners, MSPs who don't have or aren't a carrier to have a way to sell OC. I think the real thing is, where does everybody make their margin, particularly in the kind of SMB and mid market. That's the thing that drives a lot of that channel. And so how much margin is there for the resellers selling the Operator Connect licenses would be an interesting question.
Right, and now Neat and Cisco go MVP. Graham, you're our Neat expert, so what can you tell us about this?
So, MDEP, the Microsoft Developer Ecosystem Platform, is the OS that Microsoft OS team has built. So they sort of sit alongside the Windows OS team and have developed this operating system that other OEMs such as Jabra, Yealing have already adopted. There's been others announced, such as Barco and others. And then last week, Cisco and Neat announced that they're going to adopt the Microsoft operating system as well for Microsoft Teams devices, because with Cisco devices, you've got WebEx running on the device, so they'll keep their WebEx OS platform. Neat are still keeping their Neat OS platform for the other devices, but when they go into Microsoft Teams mode, they will then install the Microsoft operating system. And this is really just for customers who want that peace of mind, who enjoy Microsoft level of security. They have Windows deployed everywhere within their organizations with laptops. They like that sense of feeling that, hey, if we trust Microsoft, we're going to trust their operating system for their devices as well. So for both Neat and Cisco, it is obviously video room hardware. There are others out there that are obviously doing telephony devices with MDEP as well. So it's not just for rooms, it's for devices on your desk. And another one was App Space with digital signage players. So again, it's a whole operating system that will be applicable to many different devices in the future. So again, it's for new devices coming next year from both Neat and Cisco.
All right, a lot to look forward to next year.
Indeed. So I think one of the key things that the MDEP team want to bring to the table is sort of that parity with the Windows devices for the meeting rooms. So, for example, on Windows today, you could do autopilot to, get them online, bring them up to date with just a few clicks, and have them pre-provisioned. So the idea is that will come to the MDEP platform as well. So you could, stage the platform and the profile it needs to, ship the devices out to all the regional offices, and then they come online, log in, get their credentials. So today on Android, you either need to be at the device or remote control, but now this will automate that in the future.
Excellent. Now, Tom, we are moving into event season. There must be lots on. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so we're ramping up for the big Microsoft show, which is Microsoft Ignite in the US, and that's out in November, so a little way out, but looking forward to that. But a bit nearer, we've got Microsoft's monthly AI-powered workplace expert series. So that is Microsoft kind of talking about what's going on in the AI-powered workplace, really good online sessions. We've got the regular Microsoft Teams devices Ask Us Anything, headed by Graham and the team. That's really good. That's on the 15th of November. A bit further out, we've got the Copilot Fireside Chat on the 29th of November, and also in person, the Power Platform Community Conference. That's 28th to the 30th in Vegas. I'm not sure if any of our crew are over there, but maybe Mark is with all his Power Platform skills. I don't know. We'll find out. And in person as well, after Ignite, we've got the Microsoft UC User Group London, which is the 26th of November. So we'll be doing a big Ignite debrief in London then.
Excellent. Well, now to the main event, Mark, our special guest. As I mentioned, Mark is the UK's Home Office lead voice and video engineer, and he's been transferring how their services have delivered for multiple years. The innovation we're going to talk about today is his use of the Power Apps Teams call queue management to turn complex back-end processes into self-service solutions. Of course, the 5 days to 6 minutes is a very impressive statistic, so we're going to be digging into that. But without further ado, Mark, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
So, just to set the field of play, how is Teams Voice deployed in your current role?
Yes, across the home office, Teams is we're Microsoft House, so we use kind of Teams for all our collaboration kind of needs. We use it for our enterprise voice service as well, so we use telephony across the piece for all our users, both in internal calls, external telephony. As you can imagine, our home office is quite a wide range of different business units, different kind of types of workers, frontline workers, people at the border force, all that kind of stuff. So lots of different use cases, which is makes trying to manage that at scale sometimes a bit tricky, trying to understand how different people need to use it. A number of contact centers. We don't use Teams for our contact centers, but kind of those kind of things across it. I think I'm touching a little bit on what we're going to be talking about. I think a lot of our users also use, whether they don't need a full-fledged contact center, what they do need is quite a lot of times quite complex call queues or auto attendants to kind of serve a lot of kind of incoming calls, route them to the right teams, route them to the right people. So I think this was trying to make that process for the end users a lot easier, while also it's kind of a win-win really. So it kind of was helping from an end user point of view, making sure that they could get those requests, or if they need to amend their call queues, auto attendants, make that a nice quick process. Also kind of remove a bit of that friction in the back end, where we're having administrators having to sit there and a lot of times just click through a load of buttons effectively, but that takes time, needs to get to them, they need to go and log in and do all that kind of stuff. So trying to remove all that kind of need so that user can do what they want when they want. Again, we're a 24/7 business, so something happens at 3 a.m. they need to do, we want to be able to fulfill that as quickly as we can, rather than having to wait till 9 o'clock when an admin logs on to go and make a change.
So what was the kind of operational bottlenecks these were causing? Were these kind of accounts left just hanging until 5 days later someone would come in and do the service turnaround?
Yeah, so it was all based on request process, which is pretty standard. So a user would have to log on to the request portal. So I want to either create a new call queue, I want to amend an existing one, I want to change some of the settings, add agents, remove agents. They'd go and request that. That would then go back to a fulfillment team in the back end. Administrators then got to pick that ticket up, go and get all the details, validate that the user's put in the right kind of information, log into the Teams admin center, go and make the change, finish it up, email the user back. And while that actual fulfillment is probably still only a 10 or 15-minute job potentially, it's that SLA which sits behind it. So you can't guarantee that an admin's available at all times. So we had that 3 to 5 day SLA built in. So a lot of times users are having to wait 5 days for the request to be fulfilled. Again, those admins who are a lot of these amendments aren't particularly challenging jobs, but it still requires them to activate their role, go and make the change. So moving that from that kind of quite basic manual process frees them up to go and do some more complex tasks.
Okay, and you decided to build the Power Apps over Azure. I was wondering why did you decide to keep it all within this sort of Microsoft ecosphere over other automation platforms?
Pretty simply, we're a Microsoft House. We've already got the licensing for it, so it didn't require us to go and stand up new resources that we'd have to pay for. So a lot of our existing licensing models meant that we could develop this stuff at fairly low cost, because we've already got kind of the subscriptions, the E5 licensing, for example, which gives us a lot of those basic building blocks and Azure M365 services. So wasn't anything huge. We could have done it in quite a different way, but yeah, a lot of it was the barrier to entry to go and configure it was quite low. Cost-wise, it didn't cost us a lot outside of engineering time to go and develop the solution.
Was it helpful, Mark, that it was flexible as well? Because I've seen other customers do similar things, and every organization has these, particularly in telephony, has these esoteric, we do it this way, and this code means this, and we'd like that field. I guess it's nice on a low-code, no-code platform like that you can do whatever you want, and anything change in the future, you can adapt as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So at the beginning, we haven't built in every single possible option to have in a call queue, because I think we kind of thought to try and build that can be done. A lot of it's just inputs, right, and validation, but that probably would have considered a lot more effort. So we've kind of built it as a slightly stripped down version. And like you say, that what that does mean is that we can introduce features, so we can engage the users and say, is there anything that you currently can do that you'd like to do? And if we want to bolt that on, it's just adding an extra screen to the Power App, adding that extra validation in the back end. So like you say, it means it's scalable as well.
Nice. And we know that AI solves all problems, makes everything better. Have you found an opportunity or a reason to use any AI in the Power Apps or Power Platform or agentic, or are you thinking about that?
I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship with Copilot, to be honest. The amount of times I ask it something and it doesn't give me quite the right answer. I think probably a lot of that's probably my own fault for not framing the question in the right way. I think there's lots to be said for get the prompt right and you probably get a better answer. But we haven't used it a huge amount outside of probably just asking, is there a better way of, this is how I'm planning to integrate this thing or build this thing. Are there any other ways, and getting it to give me maybe a different angle? It's kind of that engineering, but you can kind of just like bounce ideas off, and it might come up with a few different ways. I've used it to kind of validate kind of little bits in the back end, like JSON formatting, which can get really finicky. It's very good at those kind of templated things where it is based on a set standard. Those things I think it excels really well at the moment. It's when you want it to give a bit of a lens on something, that's when it starts sometimes struggles a bit.
That's interesting. It's good to hear where it's helping you and where it's still challenging. And like that idea of having a design assistant is interesting. It feels like there's a lot of in the wider ecosystem. There's a lot of these low code, no code tools that are prompt based engineering. It feels like Power Platform and Power Automate have the potential for that, but there's still some work to do, maybe.
Okay, Mark, I was wondering, could you break? I know you've touched on it briefly already, but could you break down the building blocks? So how does it actually work from the moment a user submits a request via the Power App to when the call queue changes?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so as I said, the front end that the user sees is the Power App. So we present them with a number of screens. The kind of first screen is what do you want to do. They can ask to create a new call queue. They want to amend the settings of one. They want to add or remove agents to a queue. They want to delete a call queue, or they want to check their membership. So some of the stuff like the checking membership, that's already kind of built-in feature in Teams. You can go into your settings and check call queues, but we thought if we surface it in the app as well, that can be useful. I think one of the interesting things we went through when we were looking at what options to provide was, we originally built do you want to amend a call queue to have a single screen effectively, and do you want to add people or change settings? When we spoke to users, we looked at the kind of existing requests we got. About 80% were just people generally wanting to make additions and amendments to that agent group. So we kind of split those out and to say, if you just want to add people to a queue, we'll just have a single screen effectively, because rather than having to go next to all the settings, just give them that very simple option up front. So yeah, effectively they'll go through a number of screens within the Power App to collect information. So what do you want to call the call queue? Do you want, what type of routing type do you want? Do you want to have overflow settings? Do you want it to forward somewhere else? All that kind of stuff. I think going back to Tom's point, one of the good things about the Power Platform is we can build validation as well. So as people are entering information, if you've got if you've got present space routing off, you try and use one of the, I can't remember which routing type doesn't work with that, we can build that validation in, so that as the users are going through, if they give us input which isn't right, we can validate it before they get to the end, which was quite nice. So it meant that we were kind of standardizing the information we were taking there. So at the end of that process, they get presented back this is what you're requesting. They'll click submit. That then takes them back to the home screen. But in the back end, what that's doing is then that's writing all the inputs that they've given us into a SharePoint list. So we create a number of SharePoint lists in the background. The Power App is using Power Automate to then write all those values into that SharePoint list. Once they're in the list, again, we use that for two purposes. One to capture that information. Secondly, we can use that for kind of auditing, service management, so they can kind of go and look at that list for how many requests have we had, what's the status of them, what time and date when they created, all that kind of stuff. We then have a logic app in Azure, which goes and checks those different lists every, I think 90 seconds we check it at the moment, but effectively we check that SharePoint list every minute and a half. If there's been a new item created, that logic app starts, and then we run through a number of processes within that to do things like, again, create an M365 group, which we can attach to the call queue, add all the different members that told us to that group. It then goes and checks whether they've got how they've asked for the call queue. So, for example, if they want an overflow message and a timeout message, or just want one or the other, for example, it checks what those inputs are, and then it will go and call out a run book within a automation account. That run book effectively is a PowerShell script. Again, we pump the inputs from the SharePoint list into the variables for that run book. PowerShell script runs, creates a call queue, adds the group to it, assigns it a phone number, does all that stuff. Once that's all completed, we come back to the logic app. As long as the run has been successful, We then send an email straight to the user saying your call queue's now been created. We give them the name of the call queue, the phone number associated with it. We can point them at some like knowledge articles online so they can go in. They want to go into a bit more detail around how the call queues work. They can go and see that. We then do a final little bit where we update the SharePoint list to say, yeah, this has been completed, or if it's failed for whatever reason, we can again flag that so that support teams can get involved if we ever get any issues with that. That's a very, very quick run through of those different bits, but effectively it's just using SharePoint to track the request, Logic App to then go and check some of the variables, validate them, Azure automation accounts to go and create them, and then let the user know. Again, yeah, that kind of the most complex ones we get are the call queue creations. On average, that takes about 6.5 minutes for that to run, and a lot of that time, to be honest, is mainly the Azure the automation account run book where we're creating it. We kind of put a 3 or 4 minute sleep period in there because we need replication for the resource account, wait for it to get licensed. So yeah, if we just ran it start to finish, I suspect it would probably only take about a minute, but the end-to-end at the moment is about 6 minutes. If you just wanted to add or remove an agent to a call queue, those are usually done in about 45 seconds because all we're actually doing is adding or removing users to the M365 group. So those ones, I've seen some of them where you get the fulfillment email before you get the one that says you've raised a request, which is quite nice.
So how did you roll this out? I know the Home Office has a history of doing big rollouts with 63 Home Office users to Teams phones in just 8 days. What about with this? Was it done organization wide from the start or in a more piecemeal fashion?
So we had UAT kind of stage where we engaged with users that we knew were using call queue just to get them to use the app, work with it, iron out the kind of bug. A lot of times you don't really think it's hard to think things to use a lot of times. So we keep giving it to them and letting them run through it, highlight a few bits that we needed to tweak around some of the messaging or how we frame some of the questions. So we worked with a small group of about 20 or 30 users, again, mainly for testing purposes. Again, accessibility, that kind of thing. We work with some about 80 users so we can make sure that it worked for them with screen readers and all that kind of stuff. Once we were happy with that, yeah, it was a turn it on and let it loose in the wild. We did have a question that's, a lot of people said to us, are you going to just enable it for those users use call queues? And we said, not really, because yes, we've got those people use it, but in theory, anyone might want to use it. So we shouldn't have to get you added to a group to let you to then request it. Like,
you've just added a new friction point there, haven't you? If you're like, well, we have this tool people can get to self-service, but they can't get to without raising a ticket. You're kind of back to where you started.
Absolutely, yeah. So once we exit testing, turn it on, enable it for everyone, pin it on the taskbar in Teams, and let people use it.
And obviously, the highlight, the real number you've highlighted that from 5 days to 6 minutes, the service request was turned around. What other metrics have you used? What other metrics of this automation helped improved in your operations workflow? I imagine staff are a lot happier.
Absolutely, yeah. I think from an end user perspective, again, they can access it whenever they want, and they get their request fulfilled like quickly. As I said, I think I touched it on earlier. We've seen requests coming at 3 a.m. in the morning, and you see it's being completed 2 minutes later. So I think from an end user point of view, they know it's something that they can use whenever they want. Looking at total number of requests has been interesting as well. I think I looked at some stats the other day where we, over the 12 months until July, July this year, which is when we rolled it out, we had about 700-ish requests previously using the old catalog item. Since July, we've had almost 400, so we've had like a 95% increase in requests. I don't think we're using them any more than we were, but I think it kind of highlights that because it's a lot easier for you to go and manage it now, people are accessing it more. But it'd be interesting to talk to them and say, like, why are you using it more? Is it because it's now so easy? In the past, would you have just stopped adding Graham for that 4 hours because you needed to, because you knew it was going to take potentially 5 days? You're like, well, Graham will be off shift by the time this gets done, so what's the point? So I think that's kind of stuff we want to now follow up on and start engaging the users that we can see have used the app and say, what do you find good about it? And then conversely, how can we improve it?
Excellent. And I suppose one question that many listeners might be thinking to themselves is, How do they automate it? How do they do this automation in their process, and what advice would you give them?
I think in terms of implementing it, when I did a talk at Comsverse on this, and I did promise, which I haven't done yet, to put the code on GitHub. So I'm more than happy to do that. I think I just need to sanitize it enough that it's not true. But again, a lot of building blocks are pretty generic. It's nothing really bespoke to what we've got within the home office. It's something that you can build yourself. I'm not trying to have a competitor to the Qs app, but I can't charge five a month either. I will happily put as much of the information online as possible, so you can go and use it yourself. I think in terms of things to watch out for are write down what that process looks like now and what process you want to get to. Again, building it out, you always, by the time you've got into the weeds of some of the stuff, I think some of the Power Platform and the logic apps are fairly easy to kind of stick steps in or go and tweak processes. But I definitely recommend writing down all your different scenarios for how you're planning to do it, so that you know roughly what you're building, rather than just having a start and an end and then trying to work it out in between. I think the only other thing I think of is probably more specific to the Power App, but accessibility. I think we spent a lot of time having to retrofit changes to the Power App because we didn't think about the accessible nature of it before we started. Things like how the screen readers move between boxes, the way in which you tab between screens was quite interesting in how the Power App environment kind of works with that. It's not necessarily that intuitive, so we had to go back and refactor a lot of our screens based on that. So I definitely think if you've got accessibility in mind, again, think about that from the start. Build dynamic layouts and make sure you're thinking about where your alt text is, what your descriptions are, that kind of stuff.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Mark. That is all the questions that I had for you, but I'm now going to hand you over to our panel to see if they have any questions. Guys?
Yeah, I'll kick off, Mark. If you were to estimate the sort of time taken then to build this Power App, what sort of time, number of people, and number of hours, weeks, days it took to build?
Yeah, essentially, so we're notoriously bad at trying to work out how long such stuff takes to do. So I think when we fit, it was basically two of us that kind of built majority of the app. It was definitely in the tens of hours, kind of 60 or 70 hours. I suspect, and a lot of that again is this is kind of my first foray into the Power Platform. So a lot of that was just me learning how stuff worked to a degree. Probably a little bit quicker, but I think you generally underestimate. And again, it's not until you start getting into the testing of things and you're seeing when you get errors or validation things, you end up having to spend quite a lot of time thinking through and how do I catch those kind of scenarios? How do I make sure that they're either we get the information right from the app to begin with? But yeah, it was definitely I think in terms of the overall project, it took us about 4 months in total from project kickoff to delivery. But in terms of engineering effort, it's probably in the 60 or 70 hours. I'd say something like that.
And it's saving you probably a lot of hours every day now.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's not myself or my team that would do those fulfillments, but like it's where are we in terms of the home office? Yeah, it's saving 15 minutes of time at least for every admin request. And I think there's the end user impact as well. Like it's a little bit harder to quantify that in terms of a metric, but from a user point of view, knowing that you can get something immediately implemented rather than having to wait days is quite a big thing.
Yeah, I'll go, Mark. I mean, yeah, congratulations. It seems like a great use case. And, as you said, like it drastically improves end user experience, right? Because sometimes the ticketing process is so much friction that people just tough it out and don't do it. And then but they complain a lot, right? So you must have a lot happier users. A lot of times with these like low code tools, it's easy to get 80 or 90% done, and the final 10 or 20% of the, delivering is super tough, right? Like, was there a particular, you've talked a little bit about it, but like for this project, like what was that tough 10, percent, the final piece? Was there something that was extra challenging for you? And it sounds like you're a co-engineer.
Yeah, I think I touched a little bit on it. The accessibility bit was definitely one that ended up taking us. I said around 70 or an hour. I'd say about 20 of those are probably how to make sure that this worked on. Because again, when we were testing initially, I've got it on my laptop, works perfect on that. Then you put it on a different size screen, and it's like, oh, that looks a lot different. That doesn't look very good at all. And then you go, okay, well, we tried it on a mobile. I was like, bloody hell, that's another fish again. So like that was definitely one of the how do we test it on enough different environments or platforms or screens and that kind of stuff to make sure we're happy that it will work no matter whether you're using it on a small laptop, a massive 4K screen, all that kind of thing. Then the other was probably a lot of the validation kind of work within the Logic app. So trying to think of all the different ways that I could stick different information to make sure that it was going to be a repeatable, scalable process, and we weren't going to get loads of errors fired out every now and again just because you didn't like an at symbol or it didn't have a comma in the right place, that kind of thing. So thinking of all those ones probably took a fair bit of time as well.
Okay, no, that's great. Yeah, thanks for sharing all these details. I think it's going to be super helpful for people listening.
Now you have perfected on the call queue side. Are we looking at expanding it to other aspects? Could be like the DID management or the licensing app as such, where you could license the user on the M365 side.
Yeah, the DID management is interesting you say that. I'm definitely looking at how we can automate that stuff. I was looking at tags within Teams as well the other day around how you can use tags. I think they're generally looking at using those to say this is an engineering number or a sales one. I was thinking you could tag them with this number is available to be used, this number is in use, this number's tombstone for the next period of time, and you could use the tags within Teams to then automate your number management things. Again, from an admin point of view, I've had thoughts around could we create like an admin power app where you can go and check policies without having to get someone to log into Teams Admin Center, just go and show these are all the policies the user's got, these are the groups which are associated with it, and then carry out some tasks as well, kind of thing, which used to get the administrative burden of having to give lots of different support teams quite elevated access to stuff. If we can do it, surface that via an app, and then kind of run all that in the back end using managed identities, etc. Can build like a secure environment as well, while also making it easier for administrators to kind of do things, work out how stuff's working, that kind of thing.
Did you go with Canvas apps, Mark, or model driven?
Canvas apps.
Okay, so that's some of the challenge of testing all the different resolutions and.
Yeah, I think we've got a different. I think the second iteration of the app, whenever we get around to start developing that, I think we've got a different idea on how we want to present it to the end user, more like a dynamic screens based on where you push it, which I think will make it a lot easier to kind of scale that out. But yeah, we went for Canvas.
Yeah, we're just moving one of our apps from Canvas to model driven, and part of it was the accessibility and different screen sizes and mobile first. You kind of get a lot of that inheritance.
Great. So that's it for this month's Microsoft Teams show. Thanks to Tom, as always, our special guest Mark, and the entire panel for their expert insights. And thank you to all you for tuning in. If you found today's discussion valuable, which I'm sure you have, then don't stay muted. Please like, share, and subscribe. We really appreciate your support. And we'll be back next month with more Teams shows news, ecosystem updates, and insights that matter. I'm Kristian from UC Today. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay connected.